It began with an almost reluctant murmur, a slip of honesty that pierced the suffocating fog of royal spin and tabloid fabrication. Tessa Dunlop and Chris Shipp, voices usually entangled in the circus of royal commentary, found themselves admitting on record that the British press itself had created the monster of William and Kate. Not the public's adoration, not genuine merit, but the calculated, cynical elevation of two hollow figures onto a pedestal so high it left them untouchable, unaccountable, and worse, insulated from reality. Dunlop's observation that the predominantly right-wing press have pushed William and Kate up on this incredible, untouchable pedestal is almost shocking in its simplicity because it strips away the glossy paintwork of propaganda and reveals the crude scaffolding beneath. Shipp's agreement only compounds the irony. Here stands a journalist who has made a career out of spoon-feeding palace propaganda to the public, finally confessing that in their attempt to destroy Harry and Meghan, the press manufactured a bloated, arrogant, complacent image of the Waleses. The tragedy for Britain is that this monster is not mythical. It wears Savile Row suits and coat dresses, flashes fixed smiles, and spends taxpayers' money with the kind of entitlement that no democratic society should tolerate. The hypocrisy is staggering. For years, the British press, led by sycophants like Chris Shipp, told readers that William and Kate were paragons of duty, models of stability, saviours of the monarchy. Every yawn from William was spun into gravitas, every recycled dress from Kate framed as saintly thrift, while their inertia was excused as preparing for the future. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan, who worked, who produced tangible results, who resonated with communities globally, were vilified daily. It was a smear campaign of industrial scale, a joint operation between the palace and press to distract, deflect, and destroy. Yet here lies the irony Dunlop exposed. In making William and Kate untouchable, the press robbed them of the very thing monarchy requires: credibility. For how can one respect leaders who are never questioned, never scrutinized, never held to account? They become grotesque caricatures, swollen with entitlement, while the Sussexes shine brighter simply by contrast. Every false pedestal erected for the Waleses only throws into sharper relief the authenticity of Harry and Meghan. Chris Shipp's role in this cannot be overstated. He is not a neutral reporter, not even a passive bystander. He is one of the chief architects of the very narrative he now sheepishly acknowledges. For years he parroted palace talking points, presented gossip as fact, smeared Meghan as difficult, Harry as fragile, and carefully shielded William and Kate from the same critical lens. To hear him now admit that the press created a monster is like watching an arsonist complain that the fire is out of control. Shipp is the arsonist, the accelerant, and the match all in one. His hypocrisy is breathtaking. He knows exactly what he did, yet pretends to stand back as though the creation of this royal monstrosity was some accidental side effect rather than the central aim of his industry. And this is where the rot of British hypocrisy lies deepest. Britain clings to an image of fairness, of robust press scrutiny, of stiff upper lip pragmatism. Yet when it comes to the monarchy, all those virtues collapse. The so-called watchdogs of the press became palace lapdogs, their teeth reserved only for Harry and Meghan. They barked ferociously at the mixed-race duchess who dared to work independently, who dared to speak about mental health, who dared to marry for love. But they wagged their tails at William's laziness and Kate's mediocrity. The pedestal was not built from genuine admiration, but from fear and calculation. Protect William at all costs, because his survival means the survival of the institution. But what does it say about Britain when the only way to preserve its monarchy is to lie, to smear, and to inflate the unimpressive into gods? The hypocrisy of Chris Shipp embodies this national sickness. He built his reputation on royal access, a currency that demands obedience. Every softball question lobbed at William, every sanitized report on Kate's engagements, every venomous headline about Meghan was a transaction. Shipp cashed in his integrity for proximity to power, and in doing so, he fed the beast he now dares to criticize. But his criticism is hollow because it lacks ownership. He admits the press created a monster, but he does not admit that he himself was at the front of the mob, hammering nails into the scaffolding of that pedestal. He is a hypocrite, a coward, a man who wants the veneer of honesty without the burden of accountability. Meanwhile, the British public has been played for fools. They were told that William's silence equaled dignity, when in fact it masked indifference. They were told Kate's carefully curated outfits were symbols of accessibility, when in truth they were costumes of distraction. They were told that Harry and Meghan's calls for compassion were whines, their achievements vanity projects, their independence betrayal. But as Tessa Dunlop pointed out, every criticism of William and Kate only strengthens Harry and Meghan by comparison. The cracks in the pedestal reveal the marble figure to be plaster, and next to it, the Sussex's authenticity gleams brighter than ever. It is poetic justice. In trying to bury Meghan and Harry, the press has exhumed the corruption of its own chosen idols. This hypocrisy is not merely irritating, it is corrosive. It has warped Britain's national discourse, reduced journalism to propaganda, and poisoned public debate. Consider how Chris Shipp and his colleagues pounced on Meghan's every gesture, from touching her belly to closing her car door, yet glossed over William and Kate's blatant extravagance and absence of substantive work. They made Meghan's avocado a symbol of environmental destruction, while ignoring William's private helicopter jaunts. They mocked Harry's mental health confessions as weakness, while presenting William's muttered platitudes as profound leadership. The double standards are not subtle, they are glaring. Yet Shipp dares to speak now as though he is surprised by the monster he helped breed. This is the height of British hypocrisy. Create the lie, feed it, profit from it, then shrug when it becomes untenable. But perhaps the most damning aspect of this hypocrisy is what it reveals about Britain itself. A nation that prides itself on fairness has tolerated a system where one couple is endlessly praised for doing little, while another is relentlessly attacked for doing much. A nation that lauds its free press has allowed that press to become an arm of palace propaganda. A nation that boasts of progress has vilified its first mixed-race duchess while sanctifying mediocrity in pearls and pumps. And figures like Chris Shipp embody this rot because they know the truth but lack the courage to tell it plainly. Dunlop at least spoke it out loud. Shipp, by contrast, tiptoes around it, afraid of alienating the very institution that feeds him. Yet no matter how much Shipp and his colleagues try to rewrite the narrative, reality intrudes. William and Kate, perched on their untouchable pedestal, are increasingly exposed as brittle, uninspired, and incapable of matching the global resonance of Harry and Meghan. The monster the press created is not sustainable because it is hollow. Pedestals crack under the weight of expectation, and these two have nothing of substance to hold them up. Their entitlement, once disguised as dignity, now reeks of decay. And every time Chris Shipp opens his mouth to half acknowledge this truth, while refusing to take responsibility, he underscores the very hypocrisy that has brought Britain's media and monarchy into disrepute. The irony is delicious, if tragic. The press thought they could destroy Harry and Meghan by elevating William and Kate, but instead they destroyed William and Kate by making them untouchable. They thought criticism would only wound the Sussexes, but instead, every crack in the Wales facade makes the Sussexes shine brighter. They thought they could weaponize the press as a sword, but it has become a boomerang, slicing the institution that wielded it. And in the middle of it all sits Chris Shipp, a hypocrite who knows he was complicit, who admits the monster exists but refuses to say the name of the creator, himself and his colleagues. Britain deserves better than this hypocrisy, better than journalists who sell their souls for access, better than royals who mistake privilege for duty. Yet until figures like Chris Shipp are held accountable, until the press admits not just the existence of the monster, but its own role in building it, the charade will continue. The tragedy is not that William and Kate were placed on a pedestal. It is that Britain allowed itself to be persuaded that they belonged there, while the genuine compassion and work of Harry and Meghan was dismissed. That is the true monster, not the Waleses themselves, but the national hypocrisy that feeds them, excuses them, and now wrings its hands as though it had no choice. To all my curious Sussex family, thank you all for watching, and do not forget to subscribe, like, and put a comment. Bye-bye, see you then in our next episode.